The Tragically Hip recently played their last concert ever. Back in May, lead singer Gord Downey announced that he had glioblastoma. This is an inoperable brain tumor that will assuredly kill him within 1 to 3 years. In the meantime, the band was going to embark on a 3-week-long cross-Canada-wide tour with all concert proceeds going to fund brain cancer research. In the interim, Gord would probably be undergoing an awake craniotomy in which the patient stays awake while the surgeon operates on his brain so he can provide feedback so that speech and motor control remain. But post-operation, many patients still find deficits in speech and language, which probably explains the need for a teleprompter for much of the tour. But still, this was a band fronted by a cancer patient undergoing extensive chemotherapy that culminated in 3 encores in Kingston. Simply incredible. Now, if you're not Canadian, this probably doesn't mean a heck of a lot to you, but if you are Canadian, you're probably one of the 11.7 million Canadians that tuned in to watch a live telecast, uninterrupted, commercial-free broadcast on national television. This was a uniquely Canadian event and probably the most watched broadcast in Canadian history. 1 in 3 Canadians were glued to a screen of one type or another. Bars across town were televising it, the Independent Theatre had it on screen, and the public square played host to well over 1,000 emotional fans. The only thing that more Canadians watched was the 2010 gold medal Olympic hockey game, naturally. I mean, this was as Canadian as it gets. It's as Canadian as poutine, as Canadian as arguing about the fact that it's pronounced putain. It is Nanaimo bars, butter tarts, ketchup chips, and Smarties. It's this. And not wondering, why are the police chasing a man in a prosthetic leg? The Tragically Hip are my Canada, which is weird because they represent this sort of white boy rural country rock that you imagine the boys from Letterkenny grew up listening to.
Closest you get in any action this weekend is giving the dairy cows' teats a good scrubbing.
Tim's, McDonald's, and beer store are all closed on Christmas Day, and that's about your whole fucking world right there.
You're tougher than a set of winter tires, but dumber than an inbred donkey.
You drove down to Buffalo to watch the Leafs play, and sure, gas is cheap, but fuck, they don't even have all-dressed chips in that shithole.
But they defined much of my musical upbringing and represented the pinnacle of Canadian music along with 5440, The Grapes of Wrath, and the Rheostatics. I've listened to Fully and Completely more times than I can count, and I remember the moment Day for Night was released. Since then, I've seen the Tragically Hip countless times, from now shuttered dive bars that held no more than 80 people, to outdoor festivals, to packed stadiums, where I saw them open for Van Halen and subsequently blow them away. But unless you're from Canada, chances are good you've never heard of the Tragically Hip. Despite a loyal, almost cultish fan base that, granted, skews a little older, countless #1 records, they've not really managed to transcend our borders. And it got me to thinking, what are other countries' counterparts? What is a group or musician that would shut down a country for a final concert, but not well known outside of that country? In the United States, naturally, I think of Bruce Springsteen as representing America, but he transcends national borders. Same goes with Ireland's U2. The closest I could come to was a suggestion from a friend of the Hunters and Collectors from Australia. So if you have any ideas, let me know. But this is book 2, and so I thought, what are some distinctly Canadian reads? So, what is the Tragically Hip of Canadian literature? Sure, Joseph Boyden, Margaret Atwood, and Michael Ondaatje are distinctly Canadian, but they're more the Justin Bieber, Celine Dion, and Drake of Canadian literature, known well beyond our national borders. I ruled out Douglas Copeland early on. He's more like Rush, known for some of his earlier hits with an almost cultish following, but nothing too recent. His Generation X is his Moving Pictures, with Microsurf's 2112. For my money, it is Anne of Green Gables. Now, sure, visitors from around the world still come to our island province to visit the home of Anne Shirley, but Anne of Green Gables still feels uniquely Canadian. Now, if I'm being honest, I actually haven't read the book by Lucy Maud Montgomery, but I have, like every other Canadian, seen the 1985 miniseries with the one, the only Anne Shirley for me, Megan Follows. I am pretty sure that when you come to Canada, your Welcome to Canada gift basket includes the miniseries Anne of Green Gables, along with a Tim Hortons coffee, a toque, a hockey stick, and your own starter mousse. Robert Munsch, although American-born, feels distinctly Canadian, especially considering he spent most of his life living in the town next door to mine. He is the most stolen author at the Toronto Public Library, and one, if not a half dozen of his books probably line the shelves of new parents across this country, whether it's Stephanie's Ponytail, Thomas's Snowsuit, I'm So Embarrassed, Paper Bag Princess, or everyone's favorite story of an overly obsessive mom who brings her own ladder so she can climb and break into the bedroom of her grown son so that she can cradle him in her arms, love you forever. Though, I guess it's not distinctly Canadian considering his one book actually did make an appearance on Friends. So, let's say I have to go a little bit more back catalog and bring up Robertson Davies. If you're of a certain age, chances are pretty good you've read some Robertson Davies, whether it's Fifth Business, The Manticore, or The Lear of Orpheus. For a time, his books seemed about as ubiquitous as Stephen King's, though I know I'm dating myself a little bit here. And if you want to go even a generation further back, I can't help but bring up Farley Mowat, who seemed to be everywhere, but I doubt he has a lot of play outside of Canada. So what's your country's distinct read? Something that people who grew up in your country would immediately recognize, but those outside of it probably wouldn't. If you want the Training Wheels version of this question, what is your country's To Kill a Mockingbird? What is the book that was required reading when you were going to school? In Canada, that's where we're introduced to Carol Shields, Alice Munro, and Joy Kogawa. Anyway, I'd love to hear your input in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you guys all have a great reading week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.